Our role as leaders isn't to eliminate the storm. I like to think of our role is learning how to be the beacon, steady, grounded, intentional. Stop treating change as if it's the exception and to start seeing it as the environment we're living in. Instead of trying to outpace the change or fake confidence, he started showing up differently. And he said to his team, I don't have all the answers, but I promise you this, I'll walk with you through it and we'll get there. What they needed wasn't an all-knowing hero. What they really needed was a beacon, something steady in the middle to keep them grounded. Welcome to The Inner Edge, a podcast about leadership, self-mastery, resilience, and reinvention. Welcome back to The Inner Edge. I wanted to start today with a simple question. How do you show up when everything around you feels like it's changing and shifting and just crazy? Here's the reality. In the world we're living in today, I know all of you know this, there is no steady state. Change is not interruption. Change is the reality. And I know that's hard to fathom, but I know you've experienced that and you've realized that. And if you haven't realized that, I'm here to tell you, change is the reality. Yesterday, I had the privilege of leading a session for about 45 healthcare executives who are right in the middle of this huge transition in their organization. Their organizations are navigating a merger, new technologies, new expectations from patients. They have financial pressures, they have government regulations and new policies, they've got workforce shortages, you name it. I mean, even though this is in healthcare, I'm sure those of you who are listening, your organizations are going through something similar or are constantly going through something similar. And you could feel in this room of these executives, you could feel the weight and the heaviness from the swirl of all of this change. And I shared with them several things, but one of the things I shared was Williams Bridges' model of psychological transition. And we talked about other tools that are incredibly useful because they give us language and maps to work with in terms of understanding the psychological process that people go through when they go through change. But as I looked into their eyes, I could sense what they really needed and what they really wanted. And what they wanted was certainty. They wanted to know, how do I lead when I can't predict what's next and things constantly are changing? It's not just one change, it's another change, and I don't know what's going to happen next. And that's exactly what I wanted to explore with you today, because in times of transition, our role as leaders isn't to eliminate the storm or map out every wave, because that's impossible. And if we expect ourselves to do that, we're going to fall short. I like to think of our role is learning how to be the beacon, steady, grounded, intentional, so that others can orient themselves, even when the waters are rough. It's trying to stay steady. So let's begin first with this myth of normal. We like to think that organizations, forget organizations, even our life, move through long periods of calm with just occasional disruptions. So we're in this steady state and, there's a little bubble here, but we're pretty much steady. So we treat change as if it's temporary. Okay, and I've heard this my entire career in the organizations I worked in. I hear it with my clients. Once we get through this, things will go back to normal. But here is the kicker. Normal is not coming back. We live in what's called a BANI environment. I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to tell you what that is again, BANI. And that is characterized by brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. It's an environment where the pace of change is constant. Disruptions are relentless, and expecting stability is just unrealistic. And we don't like that because as humans, our brains are wired to want stability, to want certainty. Bob Keegan, who is a human development expert and one of the leading experts in the world at Harvard, had put it bluntly in one of his books called In Over Our Heads. He says, we are in over our heads in the world. And what he meant by that is the speed of technological advances, all the things coming at us, and now it's even accelerating with AI, the complexity of all the global issues in the world, and the interconnectedness of everything. We live in a global world, outpaces our biology. It outpaces our brain. Our nervous systems were not built for this level of unending complexity. And so we don't even know how to adapt or react to it. So what does that mean? It means if you're waiting for calm, if you're waiting for a predictable period to finally lead the way you want to lead and with presence and with reassurance and calmness, you're going to be waiting forever. And that's the first shift for us to stop treating change as if it's the exception, as if it's an event that's going to be here and then end. And to start seeing it as the environment we're living in. We're already in an environment of constant change and evolution, and it's only speeding up. It's kind of like we're on this treadmill that's getting faster and faster and faster. And that's the reality. So let me share a quick story with you around this that might be helpful. Years ago, I was coaching a senior leader in the middle of a massive IT transformation. His team was anxious, they were exhausted, and they were overwhelmed because it was just a lot. And he sat across from me in one of our sessions and he said, Janet, I feel stupid because I don't even understand half the technology I'm supposed to be the champion of. So how can I possibly lead them through it when I don't even know what the heck is going on? And what was interesting to me, and I see this all the time and I felt it myself, is he was carrying the weight of believing he had to be the oracle, the Greek oracle, the one with all the answers that knew everything. And that belief was paralyzing him. And he felt incompetent and he felt like he didn't know what he was doing. And what I told him in the conversation we had is that your people don't need you to predict every twist and turn. They can't expect you to outswim the ocean because you're not going to do that. So if you're trying to be the fastest swimmer, you're going to drown. What they need is they need a lighthouse, and you can be that lighthouse. And think about a lighthouse. Any of you who are boaters or who, at least understand this analogy, a lighthouse doesn't get rid of the storm. It doesn't calm the waves. So it doesn't do anything to change the environment. But the job of a lighthouse is actually simple, but it's hard. It stays lit. It stays steady. It gives people something to orient by when they're disoriented. It's like, there's the lighthouse. There we are. There's the light. And even though the waves are going around, there's the light. And here's what happened to him. Instead of trying to outpace the change or fake confidence or continue to be the all-knowing, he started showing up differently. And he said to his team, I don't have all the answers, but I promise you this. I'll be transparent, I'll listen, and I'll walk with you through it. And we'll get there. And you know what? That's vulnerability. And it didn't diminish their trust in him. It actually deepened it because what they needed wasn't an all-knowing hero. What they really needed was a beacon, something steady in the middle to keep them grounded. So let's bring this back to you. What does it actually take to be that beacon in your organization, in your world, and in your life? I think it takes self-mastery. And when I say self-mastery, I don't mean control, like control yourself. I don't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending that you're unfazed. It's like, oh, well, everything's swirling. That's not what I mean. I mean creating and cultivating the capacity to notice your automatic reactions hold steady, pause, and choose your response with intention about what is needed in this moment. Goes back to my magic question. I've said this in so many episodes. What is needed here? And be that. It's the ability to catch yourself before you spiral into this reactive mode, because that's what happens to us. We get defensive and reactive and, oh, I don't know what to do. It's catching that. Hold steady. It's like holding the reins in the face of continuing uncertainty, to show up grounded even when you're feeling shaky inside, and you just center and ground. That's a beacon. And this is not about perfection. You're human. I'm human. We're all human. We're going to feel the anxiety. We're going to feel disoriented. We're going to feel tired. We're going to feel the fatigue. But the beacon doesn't shine because it never flickers. It flickers. It shines because it keeps coming back to its source. And its source is its source of light. And I think that's your work as a leader. That's all of our work as leaders. Not to eliminate the storm, we can't, but to return again and again to the source of steadiness, to the source of that light, and hold it steady. So let me give you a couple practical ways to start practicing this. First of all, it sounds simple, but name what's happening inside of you. When you feel that swirl of anxiety or confusion, pause and put words to it. I feel overwhelmed. I feel afraid. I feel disoriented. Just naming it creates distance from it. And that distance gives you the pause to make a choice. Seriously, that's it. It's like, I feel afraid. I can look at that. What can I do different? I'm not afraid. So you're naming it and you're distancing it. Second, anchor to one thing you can stand for. In a storm, you can't control the waves. I mean, it's wavy, but you can choose your anchor. Maybe it's dignity. Maybe it's transparency. Maybe it's courage. Ask yourself this: what's the one thing I can embody right now, no matter what? And then finally, create a daily grounding ritual. This does not have to be complicated. 3 minutes of breathing before your first meeting. Write down a sentence each morning. How am I going to choose to show up today? And then write down what that's going to be like. Today I choose to be steady. Today I choose to be non-reactive. These micro practices accumulate because what happens is they strengthen your nervous system to hold steady. And trust me, I've been doing this for a very long time, and it's amazing. It really is amazing how I go into situations now that I used to get butterflies in. I get nervous. I get, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle this? And I'm not feeling that. I'm just feeling grounded and steady. It's because I think what's happening is I've done enough repetitions where my nervous system now has been trained to go into that mode immediately. So it works. I know for a fact because I know from myself from this constant training. It's like training a muscle. And also, the last thing, I know I said that was the last thing, but also be honest. People don't expect you to know everything. They expect you to be real, to communicate openly, and to model steadiness. And sometimes the most powerful words you can say are, I don't know, but here's what I do know. And here's what we stand for. And let's do this together. So I want you to reflect for a moment. Think about a transition that you're in right now. Maybe it's organizational. Maybe it's personal. What emotions are you carrying in this transition? So name those. And what do the people around you need most from you right now? Not in terms of answer, but in terms of your own presence. And then finally, what is your anchor? What's one thing you can choose to embody no matter how unpredictable things feel? So take a moment after this episode and write that down and write these things down, because your clarity on them, on these really simple questions, is the beginning of your beacon. So here's the bottom line in conclusion. Change isn't going anywhere. The illusion of a steady state is an illusion. So let go of that. But that doesn't mean we're powerless. It's quite the opposite. It means our real power lies not in predicting the waves and not trying to say, hey, there's never going to be a storm, but it's in mastering our stance and how we respond to them. To be the beacon is to accept that storms are inevitable and to commit to shining the light anyway. That's the invitation. That's the inner edge.